Hello, gang. Welcome. Let's do a quick sound and video check. You guys can see and hear all right. I already got a comment. Hello, Mr. Bot. Want to become famous? Not really. Buy followers, primes, and views. That's a hard pass, mate. I'm not big on cheating. I want people to like me because they like me. I think that's fair. Ermagerd, welcome. Thank you. So you can hear all good. You can see me. Just double checking. Stream looks good on the site, but I can't hear it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, we're back to this silliness here, painting our gross, weird monster lady things. I think we're pretty close to done. I've gone through, I just opened it up a few minutes ago, and I made a new layer where I copy pasted everything. I did a quick multiply pass, just knocking things down, evening things out, smoothing it out. But I didn't want to lose a lot of the values that we brought back. Let me turn down my music. It's a little, can't hear myself think. Oh goodness. It reminds you of James Jean. That's fucking awesome. I love James Jean. Thanks. That was not the intent. It was kind of like, I remember. So this is the original illustration. I don't know if you were with us when we were first coming up with the idea for this, but I painted this a while ago, and it was kind of like inspired by a wasp nest. So that's where it started. But I like cabbage, so cabbage works for me. Yeah, James Jean's got his own thing for sure. That's cool, and I love it. So I did this quick, I copy pasted all, and I went in with a smudge brush, and I just have been smoothing out some of the brush strokes that are kind of drawing a little too much attention with their contrasts. And it's just sort of like it's a cheapo trick, but it does work. I mean, the old masters would definitely frown on this when we're talking about doing traditional painting, but you know, why not? And now I'm painting, and I want to start to define my cast shadows better overall, work on the details of my focal point, really get these hands feeling complete and finished. And I think I'm going to try and touch on the dress a little bit more, get that skirt. It has skirt symbolism, but it's still not quite right. It feels a little kind of janky and kind of made up to me. So it's just refining today and chatting and hanging out. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Do I do any ZBrush? I've done a bit of ZBrush. I've posted them. I think they may be on my ArtStation account. I don't know for sure, but I love sculpting. I sculpt. I'm much more comfortable sculpting traditionally. I'm a big fan of like WED clay. I took some classes back in the day on sculpting maquettes and masks and things like that for film. I love sculpting. It's just I haven't mastered the pipeline with ZBrush or with Blender yet. I enjoy it. It's just really an issue of putting more time in, because a lot of the really great masters out there, I love their work, and I'd love to get to that point of fidelity with ZBrush. At this stage, it's just I'm so much faster with painting. So what I really need to do is tie my hands behind my back figuratively and just not allow myself to do any Photoshop or any traditional painting for a while, and just force myself to just buckle in and do straight 3D. Yeah, I really love working in three-dimensional form, and when I'm painting, I think that way most of the time anyway. I think it's just kind of my natural approach. I forget the name of that particular neurological condition in which you cannot visualize things. I don't have that. I have like the opposite. So it's very easy for me to visualize things in 3 dimensions without having to see it at all. It's like I'm good at mappings with locations, not with names. I can visualize things. Aphantasia, that's it. You're correct. I have the opposite. So I can really think about things in 3 dimensions without having to see them or even map them out drawing, which has been very useful for what I do. So I'm blessed in that way, I suppose. And 3D, I feel like 3D comes pretty naturally to me. It doesn't require a lot of effort. It's just the pipeline, the GUI. It's tough, you know. It's experience. It's like Photoshop. I mean, if you have experience painting and drawing, those skills transfer directly to things like Photoshop. The problem is always struggling with pipeline, figuring out like, why is the brush stuck like this, or whatever silly damn thing comes up. Yeah, I guess I am lucky in that way. But I think I did do some things that helped train it. I definitely think there is sort of a natural proclivity for it, but I did do a lot of training. It was a combination of a couple of classes in college that really kind of cemented this thinking for me, which I've talked about before. One of them is still, well, they're both still extant at the school, but one is now online, and that's Peter Hahn's drawing class, dynamic sketching. So he and I actually took dynamic sketching together in college. He was my roommate, and that class really helped me to start thinking about things in 3 dimension. And I already had, as I said, the proclivity, but it really cemented it. It gave me systems to manage it and to think about things and to analyze and dissect what I was seeing and simplify them into 3-dimensional shapes that I could manage. And then mixed with that was Gary Meyer's painting classes, which were just a breath of fresh air for me. So what I teach with my classes are a combination. It's a true hybrid of the original dynamic sketching class, which Pete has taken and totally run with again, and Gary Meyer's class. So I guess the long story there that I'm trying to say is I think although I am lucky, it is something you can learn. You can teach yourself. It takes time, it takes focus, but I think it's one of those things that's really worthwhile. It's a hugely useful skill for what we do. Substance Painter has a layering system not unlike Photoshop. Well, shit. I'm gonna have to check that out. I thought Substance Painter was mostly texture painting. Has that expanded to sculpting as well? Charles Hughes anatomy class. God, I wish I'd taken his class. I was teaching a class in the same damn building as him for a while, and I never got over there. I love to like peek in and see what they were up to. He's such a great teacher. I should have taken his class. Charles who is the perspective guy, or Peter Hahn? There's a lot. You don't have to have a model for your drawing. There's a lot of online resources that help with model. So to replace having a model, they'll find photos, stock photos, models, and things like that online, and they'll do structured, timed things. Oh, Gary Meyer. Yeah, Gary Meyer. I don't know if he's got tutorials. He's an older guy. He's from old school magazine and advertising illustration from way back in the day, and the man is a beast. He used to take gouache and paint on blackboards, and what was incredible was, like we're painting on a lighter canvas, he's painting on dark green, and his command over mixing color and for implying shape, implying rendering was so elite, top tier, 2000 IQ shit. He would get up there in front of the class and live paint on a chalkboard, something that he was planning to wash off at the end of class, and do masterpieces. It's incredible. Gouache is hard. Thankfully, the class wasn't taught in gouache. It was taught in acrylic, which I do much better in. I basically paint very similarly to how I do digital when I paint with acrylic. It's a lot of layering, a lot of glazing, quick render, just get the ideas down and bam. I did learn a bit of gouache, but man, gouache, when I'm doing my challenging traditional painting sketches, I've posted them on my Instagram. You can find them there. Those ones, in gouache, though. Oh, that is work, brother. Let's see what I got for my layer here. Yeah, just smoothing things out. And I just kind of imply mapped on cast shadows without getting too deep into it. So far, I've only really painted like 1.5 light sources. I've kind of implied it reflected light slash a fill light. So this is a great time to kind of try and introduce some other stuff. Believe it or not, I really did not render the breasts too much. That was just this smoothing. By going in, I had the right values in the right spots. So just by smoothing with the my friendly little smudge brush here, it did all that smoothings, rounding, soft rendering for me. It's a great cheat. This music is from incompetech.com, I believe. Kevin MacLeod. He does these amazing royalty-free selections. If they're ever not a good fit for the Twitch, let me know, and I'll try and find something else that matches a little bit better. But he's got so much music up there. I don't know how that guy generates so much content and then just, you know, just shares it. We're so lucky for people like that. Yeah, if any of you run a Twitch or you do something that requires royalty free, I cannot recommend the music from that site enough. It is really great. And I know a lot of streamers and a lot of content creators that do video use his work. He's basically everywhere. Want some of that blue over here. The danger when you're doing some subsurface scattering like I've done here is that if you get too aggressive with it and imply too much depth into the subsurface, what it can do is it can make the thing look like quasi-transparent rather than having a transparent surface. So skin behaves like a transparent surface. Light goes into the skin, the epidermis bounces around inside, and you pick up the fat and the blood and the color of the substances inside. But if you allow the fill space to go way too deep into the core shadow, you're going to end up with like rubbery looking or almost completely see-through objects. And considering already the ample situation I've got going on here, I don't want to make it feel more fake. Oh yeah, it's because subsurface scattering looks it's just so pretty, man. It's so cool. Yeah, when I first discovered it, everything had subsurface scattering. So I can't give anybody too hard of a time, you know. It's just how it goes. It's part of the learning process. When you pick up a new trick, you tend to overuse it. I want to imply some bunching, some fleshiness, skin folds, fat, weight, and gravity. This is all done just with form shadows and cast shadows in order to imply all that subtlety of reality and life. So you got to get your lights in the right spot, get the right midtones in the right spot. I think that's kind of a problem that I see in a lot of more sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Suggestive works like this, is not enough weight, not enough reality in the flesh that lends it that feel of being real. So everything kind of looks, you know, bolted on and strange, alien, which is kind of why I'm allowing it to happen a little bit here, because definitely this character is meant to be alien, but not surgically so. We're pretty done with that. Trusty smudge brush. There's definitely a fakeness going on here with what I've built. Need more pectoral muscles, more underlying anatomy. It can't just be these bubbles. Am I using a tablet or a Cintiq? I am on a tablet. I actually, it's the worst kept secret. I hate Cintiqs. I do not enjoy them for such a number of reasons. I've worked on them in studios and in classrooms. I really can't stand them. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember that for a long time I was like this lone voice in the darkness saying, these things are awful, they're hot, and there's a delay, and your hand is in the way. Why do you even want that? That's ridiculous. But I'm hearing more and more people taking up the same mantras, as it were. Were your reasons the same? Yeah, my hand would get really hot. Like, I already run super warm. I really don't need to be on top of a space heater. Yeah, I remember working on the old. They've gotten better. I mean, to give Vacom credit, they've gotten so much better with the tech. They've cooled it off. The delays are significantly reduced. I mean, they've managed to really shrink that screen, the screen separation, so that you really feel like you're on top of the pixels. But it's never been enough for me. I'm a very, very picky guy. You know, it's just too picky. Possible to please. Trying to keep in mind that the clavicles, the deltoids here on these further forward set of arms are kind of deformed and much smaller. Oh yeah. It's interesting seeing all the different kind of solutions people had for trying to get their hotkeys and things like that while using a Cintiq. I've seen some interesting things, like where they'll have the Cintiq up high and then they have the keyboard underneath it, so like one arm is kind of dislocated underneath, this little Quato paw coming forward. This is pretty funny. So much easier, just let it go. Farewell to the flesh, I say. I'm totally post-humanist in this respect. Plug me into the machine. I want my cybernetics. I want my finger razors, my Molly Millions finger razors. I am ready. Alien Vertex! Hey, buddy, how you doing? Welcome. Yes, I'm a transhumanist all the way. I have been. I was before I even knew that that was a word. I've been very pro cyber augmentation and using science to push humanity to that next level, regardless of the cost. Bring me Dr. Moreau. Big love, brother. Big love. Good to see you on. Leaded Ink says, I haven't been in the art world in forever. What good can hotkeys do? Is it like binding certain tools to keys? Sorry, I got goop on my face. You know, I'd say one of the first things that I do when I'm learning a new program, actually this is a perfect example because I'm trying to teach myself 3D, and 3D is a really difficult struggle for me because it's a totally new UI. The first thing I try and do is map tool keyboard shortcuts and important macros so that I start from the beginning as fast as I can possibly go. Because what you get with macros, instead of going through and going tab by tab and doing all these in betweens, is you're able to eliminate. Again, this is kind of ties into my transhumanism concept here. It eliminates meet time and maximizes creation time. It separates it removes that separation between you and the machine, your intended artwork. So I'd say it can be weird, but ultimately it's going to increase your speed significantly. It's going to make you more efficacious in terms of work, which also increases your speed. And it forces you to kind of get into the nuts and bolts and really analyze your program, because you need to go in and figure out what these different things do. That's another great thing about them. Well, so I've done a whole episode on it. I can't quite lift it into view. Let me see if I can do this around my mic and stuff. But I have a, can you guys see this? I have a Nostromo. It's a Razer Nostromo. It's an old one. It's actually my third or fourth one. I've gone through them. You can, once you learn your macros, you can get these little peripherals and then map macros to them so that it becomes a one-button press. So I have one-button presses for things like new layer or transform, things that are generally three-button presses. So there's ways that you can make it more and more and more efficient, which speeds up the time between intent and follow-through. Hopefully that makes sense. Irma Gerd, you don't know if you'd hate being a disembodied consciousness. How do you know you're not right now? Meat time, yeah. Thanks for the follow, Alien Vertex. Yeah, it's very much my philosophy about how I teach myself these different programs and things like that is just eliminating what I'm calling meat time, which is that separation between intent and follow through. The cool thing is that when I've actually been using Photoshop for painting since like Photoshop 2, if you can believe that. That's how old I am. And I mean, back then I was painting with a mouse, and I mean, like, there was no right click. It was just like one button mouse, and trying to paint. Or at that time, I wanted to be in comics, so I was trying to teach myself coloring. And through the years, the more I've learned about, macros and keyboard shortcuts and things like that, the things that I was doing that I spent untold hours on in regard to, you know, flatting, I mean, I didn't even know how to flat back then. I used to actually fill inside the lines. There was so much I was doing wrong that was slowing me down and frustrating, and really, really made it just unnecessarily difficult for myself. Man, it's so great that now I kind of lost my train of thought there, but it's so great that now there are people that just they'll give you total roadmaps for shortcuts. I think even I've done a video on shortcuts before. It was probably the same one I did on my Nostromo. And you can find them anywhere. It's really easy to find them. People have already they've battled these particular monsters already for you. So it's amazing the information that's available now that can help you. All you need to do is put in the time to remap your brain. And one of the things I liken it to is I'm a gamer. Also, I've been a gamer since forever. And over time I learned, this is again, it's the meat time thing. I learned how to train myself to remap a controller in my head so that I can pick it up in minutes. I can learn a new game, and I think a lot of gamers are like this, where you just pick up a new game, you figure out, even if you have to run through the tutorial, you figure out what the different buttons do, and before you turn off the game after your first session, you already don't need to look. You already know what buttons are what. So it's that same mentality. I don't want to belabor it. I'm just kind of, you know, content, baby. We're just talking. But yeah, it's for me, it's vital to get that stuff. And if you do it in one thing, like if you are a gamer and you already are capable of remapping a controller in your head pretty much the first time you play, this is going to be pretty easy for you to pick up. You just need to think about it the same way. So many times, things that we're trying to teach ourselves, or things that we're trying to learn, you know, in a more academic, traditional sense, really, what is necessary is not. I mean, of course, time is necessary to just spend time working at something until you feel like you've mastered it. But a lot of it is just finding the right perspective to approach that learning in. And in so many things, in learning and in life, perspective is everything. You're open to being uploaded? Actually, I am too. I'm super down. Let's do that. Have you read Neil Stephenson's new novel, Fall, or Dodge in Hell, the sequel to Reamd? Oh, I loved Reamd. Reamd was so good. Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, I can't wait to pick it up. I have so many other games I'm playing right now, but I'm like, la 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 la. I can't hear any spoilers. I cannot wait to play that game. It looks so gorgeous. Hot mess with config and rebind before play games anymore. Hey, there's nothing wrong with being old and stuck in your ways. I actually got a controller that I can remap on my PC so that I can do things like not having to relearn to jump with a slightly different button. But that's that's neither here nor there. If you can find a way that makes it work for you, old or not, do that thing. And if there is no way to make it work, like I imagine keyboard macros are going to be one of those things, just have a. Well, you know what? Actually, this might be a helpful thing. I did do this when I was first really getting into the macros for my keyboard for Photoshop. I would make post-its, and I put post-its with major macro sets that I would use all the time, and I would organize them underneath my monitor according to kind of roughly where it would be on the keyboard. And it didn't take long before I ended up kind of forgetting that those were there. See if that works. Took a character for games class, and the first assignment was to customize the ZBrush UI. Oh, you know, that's not a bad idea. Who taught that class? It's a good thing that you can save. So many of these apps now, you can save your template, like a template of your macros and your palette layout. You can save your GUI. Oh man, I'm so glad they started implementing that in all of these. You just got a Kindle because you threw in the towel on being an audiobook listener. Oh, I love audiobook. I had to cancel my Audible account though. Do I need a code? For what? What do I need a code for? Oh, for Ghost of Tsushima? I mean, you got one. I wouldn't turn it down. Need to get back into Magic when it comes to games. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I haven't played Magic. The last time I played Magic the Gathering was on a sailboat with like an 8-year-old kid, and he kicked my ass. I got wrecked. So good. I miss that game. It was a really good game for the deck building and building out a strategy and testing it against your friends was like just the best. Let it ink. I have a 6-button mouse and I only use the left click and right click. Oh, bud. I hear you. I hear you. Eric Valdez taught the class. Okay, cool. Very nice. I'll have to check him out. Alien Vertex says Eric is great, so that's a second vote of confidence. Oh, thanks, brother. I'll have to ask the Sucker Punch guys if they need anybody to paint some booby demons for them, because apparently that's my bread and butter, right? Oh, really? Eric Valdez works over at the office. Damn, that's awesome. Was he there on this last game? Yeah, Alien Vertex is at Sony. Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I mean, if he's there, he has to be damn good. That's the way I look at it. That's top tier stuff. That's why you're there, bud. You know that. Oh, okay, okay. Character artist, I assume. Eric Valdez, yeah? Well, if you guys don't know who that is, he's got to be good. Check him out online. Follow him on all of his social media, please. Excuse me. Are you saying I've got a single button going? Let it ink. You got the right of it. Just keep doing that. I'm really good at recognizing imagery. So when I see an image, I'll be like, yeah, I've seen that. I know what that is. Sorry, Alien Vertex. I have a strict little bot on my Streamlabs. I apologize. I've turned it off for everything, but I forgot about the spamming. Yeah, so just follow artists you like, and don't worry about names. I'm just as bad. It's delightful, really, in so many ways, because like I went to this last Lightbox event, the one that Bobby Chu put on last year, and so I met a lot of artists for the first time that I've been a huge fan of for literal decades, and it was so delightful to finally like meet them and just like geek out and say how much I love their work, and they love to hear it too. So it's cool. Sometimes I need to see the work to know who it is, though. I do this all the time, guys. Don't do this. When you're doing any kind of patterning or like a wrinkle set or something like that, be extra careful not to use the same width or thickness of something. You don't want to make a pattern. it's like a human condition. You're always constantly making patterns out of things, and as artists, it's something we struggle to break. You can't just do patterns like this with a painting, and it makes things look boring, and it makes them look really fake, and it kills the naturalness. There's times when you want patterns. Fantasy illustration like this is not one of them. So be mindful. This is for me. This is one of those, like, I have to constantly check what I'm doing. It's a regular boo-boo for Izzy. So I got to go in sometimes, even after I've finished a painting, and go, nope. Sorry, Alien Vertex, again. I'm using some kind of streaming aid which helps with the moderation and helps with, like, you know, they do all the code that allows you to see things like if you guys are looking up here somewhere, there's a chat, you can see what everybody's saying. It records all that, and then, you know, they do the little pop-ups like when there's a new follower. I have all that hooked up, but I'm not really good at that end yet. So there's a lot of things that I accidentally turned on, and these random moderations, it was sorry. Anyway, simple life, happy life, words to live by. You should be teaching, my friend. I think, I don't know. Alien Vertex, what do you think? Can you answer that one on the ABV? I'm always pro high ABV. That's the way. Mine's high as well. We will not discuss how much. Honestly, I don't even know what the rules are on Twitch in regards to that sort of thing. So the less said from me, the better. Although I think I did see, it was on the news even, there was a guy that was on, this happened like a few months ago. Did you guys see that? He was with one of those Twitch gamers, like, I think a hard right-wing kind of guy, and he played a lot of shooters, and he had a pistol on his desk, and he was drunk, and he, like, picked up the pistol, like, dropped the mag, and then cocked it, like, just to show off the click of his gun, and then fired it into the wall. That shit was crazy. That was all live on Twitch. Damn. That guy's never working on here again, guaranteed. He probably is. I don't know. I really don't know how strict they are, but if I was in control, that would be like such a huge no-no. That's such a fail. So dangerous. God, he could have killed a neighbor or something. I can't believe that. Oh, he's not hard right. Okay. I did see the apology. But god damn, that is a massive one. Yeah, he really messed up. Be careful with your firearms, my friends. I love shooting, I really do, but they are dangerous tools. I think we're good with the upper arms. They're gross and wrinkly and weird and rubbery. I'll leave it at that for now. Let's go back to the face. We've neglected that a little bit. Oh god, that an accidental suicide live. Jesus, that's horrifying thought. Don't put that shit in the cosmos, man. How many channel points do you need to spend for what? Oh yeah, that's the big issue with guns like that is a lot of people live in apartments or really close to neighbors, and an accidental firing like that could do serious damage. It's really scary. I remember I was pretty into guns for a while, and I remember reading about a type of munitions which was like a plastic slug, and it was designed for use like in CQB, like apartment housing. And what it would do is it would hit like a bullet normally with flesh, for instance, but on anything firm that was flat, it would immediately shatter instead. I don't know whatever happened with that, if that stuck around, but it seemed like a good solution for this kind of stuff for home defense. If you're planning on doing something like that, I would recommend the plastic slugs, just to prevent going through houses, or going through walls into other houses rather. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know I don't know the names of a lot of the I'm about my knowledge of guns is kind of like the macros thing. Like it's pretty limited, and it's just video games. I've shot a lot of guns, but yeah, that's about where my knowledge ends. Trust the experts. Follow the rules for your safety. All that good stuff. Totally. A sword... Ermagerd. A swordsmith. I think you should do that, for sure. The world needs more swordsmiths. It's a pretty cool thing to do. There's a school that I worked at briefly up here in Oregon called the Oregon College of Arts and Crafts. And that was like high school years, like just after high school, I think. So it was before I ever went to college, and I was working as a teacher's aide in a print shop there, and they had a metals program. So cool. Metalwork is really awesome. I don't know if I could ever do it. We've established I burn pretty warm. I would be that big boar-looking guy with no shirt and just a giant leather apron, just slick with sweat. That would be me. I could not handle making swords. It would be cool, but that's too much sweatiness, too much discomfort for old Iz. You used to smith for fun too? You've done everything. That's awesome. I'm trying to decide if I want the bulb part of the nose to be the part that's picking up the highlight or the nostril. I'm doing this without reference. So one of the ways that you can figure that out for yourself when you're doing something without reference, and you should never paint without reference. Do as I say, not as I do. Is to test it. Try the nostril first, or try the bulb first, and see which one's delivering the impact that you're after. I think the bulb is going to be it on this one, because it juts out just a little bit more here. It's worthwhile to pop it there. Plus, if I remember right, she has a very aquiline... No, actually, I take it back. She has kind of a strawberry-shaped nose. Not that I'm doing exactly this character anymore. I think I do like that nose better, though. There's something... You know, there's kind of like your generic facial features that can be easy to paint. You get used to them. It's kind of the symbol for this or that. But varying them up can be quite valuable for getting your character to feel fresh and more real. So I think we're going to do that. I think we're actually going to bulb it up a little bit. I teach painting like your dad taught driving. That's fair. I'm in. Let's have a day out blacksmithing. Oh, Vertex, I'm sorry. Who knew that the Streamlabs bot was so bitchy? So here's an interesting aside. This particular nose type, this strawberry shape that I have here, I've seen it a lot, but where I've seen it the most is on people from New Zealand. And I've met a lot of people from on a South Island that had this particularly interesting shape of the nose. I really like it. I think it's a super cool feature. Oh, it's on. We're gonna have to do like a full blacksmithing episode. Set up some cameras that can handle some temperature. When you made a decision like this, sometimes it's better to just kind of get rid of the bones of the other thing that you had there. Start from scratch, because you're always going to be fighting what looks good from what was there before. So I'm broadening it out, and I'm going to add a lot more flesh to the front nibby part of it. Streamlabs is not a fan of Alien Vertex. Yeah, the elven nose is your more traditional looking, white, aquiline style. Well, I guess not aquiline. Aquiline sort of more describes the beakiness of it, but yeah, that slender knife point with the upturn, gentle upturn. So in this, I'm thickening out the septum bit. I think that's the septum, this part here. Thickening it out and really shrinking the nostrils. So for that more standard kind of pretty elf model nose, the nostrils and the septum are really slender and kind of pointed and jutting upward in this kind of gentle little pop. And then there's a little peak that comes back. This is a thicker, more, I don't know, it has a nice earthiness to it. Knife nose. Damn dandelion eaters. Elves. I don't think we're going to see the interior of that unless that nostril is lower. I guess it kind of is a little bit. Let's go ahead and dig in the snout just a bit. Yeah, dwarves are fun. It's like painting like wizened old men versus like very attractive characters. There's so much more character in doing something that has just like a tinge of non-traditional beauty in it that makes it really fun to paint. Yeah, that just feels more natural to me. It's less of a model, it's more realistic. So one of the things I've always noticed about this type of nose is that there's this more kind of flat. It's less pinched and narrow. And sometimes there's like even a little kind of hobbit dimple in the bottom part. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are not hearing the same music I'm playing. I'm listening to Spotify. What you guys have is a playlist of royalty-free music from Incompetech online, incompetech.com, who's a super awesome composer and just makes all these collections of really great and varied music. Makes it royalty-free. It's kind of incredible. Yeah, I like the music in and of itself. I wonder if he's got a Spotify channel. He must. Yeah. So there's so much stuff like the Streambot or Steambot or yeah Streamlabs that is harassing Alien Vertex currently. They basically have all of these little things that help you uh, put hack together little chunks of code that you can input into your OBS Studio or whatever streaming software you're using, and it just does all this stuff for you. So yeah, like the chat above and all the other little bits that are around here around the screen that you can see, all of that is little hacks from Streamlabs that make it all easier, make it look good, make it look pro. Yeah, I picked up a lot of that stuff and learned a lot of it from YouTube. Fortunately, one of the things I love about this kind of community is everybody's really, really generous with their knowledge and experiences. So you can find help so easily. Exactly. I do too. It's one of those things that can be the thing that knocks your illustration or your character just up that one little bit is just a touch of asymmetry and just a touch of naturalness, a little bit, bringing it back to reality just a little bit. Fantasy illustration, sci-fi illustration can often become pretty preoccupied with perfection and the idea of that, like the ideal, capturing the ideal visage or whatever, and ignoring that can sometimes bring your piece to the real next level for you. And I much prefer that strawberry nose she has here, which also means I need to, if we look at what I was doing here, I can show you my thinking. So when I'm painting, I told you guys that I'm very lucky and have also worked at it to think really three-dimensionally. So one of the things that I learned when I started learning anatomy is I began to start analyzing substructures. And so when I'm looking at a model or looking at a person's face, I start to see all of the underlying things, like the skull structure, like how the teeth and the jaw are arranged underneath that make the skin do what it's doing on top. And if you want that kind of variety in your work, it's a really good idea to start thinking and learning about the more forensic anatomy approach. Like, what is it that makes a face have these particular proportions? Okay, so prime example, if you look at my face, I don't know if the lighting is strong enough that you can see it, but I have a really deep divot right here. It creates a wrinkle that I've had since I was like 12 years old. I've had this weird wisdom wrinkle, and it's a combination of two things. I have a really protruding orbital bone up here that comes out, and it's really common with people like the natives that come from the country where my father was born, in Mexico. They can have a very strong protruding orbital brow, this brow ridge. And then also something that tends to happen is like for curly hair, I don't know if you know this, the curly hair is that we all our follicles are all the same. If you have straight hair or curly hair, The underlying anatomy that makes hair is the same. What changes curly hair from straight hair is the amount of skin you have. If you have more skin, it flattens the follicles. And so when the hair grows out, it comes out as a ribbon instead of a string. Does that make sense? So knowing that kind of stuff can change how you think about the anatomy of your characters. And like in my case, so this is a combination. You can see now that you know about the curly hair, the extra skin, that this is the result of a lot of skin on my scalp and a protruding brow ridge. Wisdom wrinkle, yeah. You don't have to be able to envision the skull. I'm just telling you that it helps. Yes, this is how I think. So when I'm thinking in terms of my painting, and when I'm thinking in terms of analysis, which is 90% of the painting that no one ever sees, is what is it that makes this look different? What is it that makes this look like that? Looking at light, looking at shadows, and being like, whoa, this is why is this behaving this way? And then sitting there and pondering it until you figure it out and go, Eureka! This is the reason. And understanding that, all of the magic that you're seeing around you in terms of light and form, when you understand it, replicating it is so much easier. No, your skin isn't necessarily flat. It's more stretched over the skull. If you have just standard, more straight hair, what's happening is there's just less skin occupying the same surface area of the scalp. Does that make sense? So it's just, and it doesn't need to be much. We can be talking centimeters here. It just changes the shape of the follicle as it emits. Like, you remember Play-Doh? Like those Play-Doh toys that like you could squeege out like ribbons and stuff, or like a pasta maker? It's kind of the same idea. If you change the shape of the holes of the pasta maker as it's pushing it out, it changes the shape of the noodle. It's gross, but it's the same damn thing with your hair. So anyway, oh yeah, so I was getting to this. With her face here, what's happening, the way I designed it in looking at the illustration right now, is I modeled her looking at her as like a South Polynesian English, like an Australian or a New Zealander. So the structure of the skull, how the nose forms where it's at, the cartilaginous tissues and things like that, there's a slight kind of underbite that's coming forward, which is evening out the lips, and it's making them look less poochy and sexy, but it also, like, it lends a little bit of reality. We can see the teeth and the muzzle underneath. Thinking about that helps with your illustration as you're going. Thanks for the follow, Los Terror. That's a great name. Everyone in your family has curly hair but you. Now you know why. It's true. Yeah, I got the curly Islander style hair too. Hey, drink up. This is the place to do it. We can hang out, have a pint, and enjoy ourselves. Yeah, I'm happy to explain it. It's interesting stuff to me. Here's a fun little aside. How about this? So I told you where my dad comes from. So I'm half honky mix. I'm a white guy. Half. The other half is whatever my dad is. He was born in Mexico. Says that he's from this particular tribe, the Nahua. So the Nahua made up the Aztec Empire, and I because I'm interested in it, but also because I have supposed history here, I did a lot of research into it, and I was interested in like the culture and the history and things like that. And one of the things I found out was the Aztecs and a lot of the Mesoamerican tribes from those millennia that these different groups were in power they saw curly hair as a bad omen. Isn't that funny? So if you look at a lot of the imagery and things like that, there's this kind of flat, almost bowl cut look to a lot of the hair. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they would pack their hair with clays that would keep the hair straight and down. because having curly hair was, again, a bad sign. So someone like me would have been el terror in the ancient culture where I supposedly come from. Well, I take everything my dad's told me with a grain of salt. That's another story. Your dad's family is Hawaii and Japanese, comes from Hawaii and Japan. Wow. Oh, yeah. Such cool, amazing anatomy comes out of the Polynesian islands. Such good, awesome looks. That's pretty great. Oh, yeah. Fellow mutts for sure. Welcome, Tyler. Yes, this is some Clive Barker stuff. I am actually working on my application / test for, well, it's not a test, but I'm just trying to get attention from Roughhouse whenever they get started on their Hellraiser series. If any of you guys are watching, Danny, you guys should hire me for sure. I would love to work on Hellraiser. That was an important series in my developmental years, I think. Clayhead, yeah. What was my dad's name? My dad's name? Oh, interesting tale. So my dad's name is Agustin, which is Spanish, but originally his name was my name. And that's a kooky story. We'll save that for another day. But yeah, my dad's name was Agustin, and you know, a lot of the indigenous peoples, just like here in the U.S. and elsewhere, Canada and other places, the indigenous peoples lost their tongue. They stopped speaking much of their old language. I mean, apparently Nawa is an extant tribe. They still exist. There's absolutely Nawa out there, and the language is everywhere. In fact, most of the words that are sort of the words or the names of things, like avocado, that is derived from the language of the Nawa. So chocolate, a lot of this stuff that we know of as Mexican words or Mexican origin words come from these ancient languages. But one thing that tends to happen when you have colonization is a lot of names get lost. So a lot of the names that are of people that are from these tribes, particularly the one that I come from, is they've been lost. No one uses them anymore. So Agustin, which is very Spanish, was my dad's name. Hungarian, Ukrainian, Irish, and Syrian. That's an amazing mix. Hawaiian, Japanese, Native, and British. Wow. Thanks, Tyler. I'm glad you like my work. I really am. Stick around, hang out. We'll be doing some arts on here, and I explain a lot about my process for doing Magic the Gathering and cards like that, if that's something you're into. Hellraiser and Nightbreed. Yeah. Nightbreed was the one. Was Nightbreed the Clive Barker which had the guy that went into the graveyard and found like this subspecies of like demon folk? I love that movie. It's the best movie. It's like, apparently, I remember I watched some amazing YouTube video on the history of it, and I guess like that was one of those movies where the money heads got pretty involved and kind of messed with the vision quite a bit. But even with all of that involvement, I love that movie. It's so fucking weird. Nightbreed. I guess that was also based on one of his books, which I haven't read. To be fair, to be straight, really, I've tried reading a couple of his books and I struggle with them. He's got his visual sense, for me, doesn't translate to how he words the things, but it feels like he's trying to, and it just doesn't work. But man, what a great, amazing person. I would love to be up to that level, to just make stuff, make movies, make music, and then have your whole vision shown. That's so cool. That guy deserves the maximum amount of respect for having done the ultimate artist's journey. Sweet. You and Seth loved it? Oh, nice. Yeah, Cabal, that's right. Did you read Cabal? Vertex? That YouTube video I watched, I really wish I could remember who it was that did it. I don't think it was Hollinger. Yeah, he compared the book and the movie and the differences. Very interesting. Still just kind of zooming out. Like all things, it's kind of hard to focus and chat at the same time, but we're making some progress. One of the things I always like to do, you've probably seen me do it before now, is to grab all the work that I've done and then group it. You can see I've done it a few times. All the work that I've done in the day, group it, so I can turn it off and on and see how much of a change I've made. And I do this for two reasons. One, it's good to, like, when you've climbed up the ladder, look down and see how far you've gone. The other reason to do it is when you've climbed up the ladder and you spent a long time on it, and then you look down and it doesn't feel like you've actually gone that far, then there's something wrong. So there's pretty big changes here that are congruent with the time spent actually focusing on it. This is pretty, I feel comfortable with that. The nose is much better. I like it a lot better like that. Those wrinkles are so gross. I love it. You feel like I would make amazing D&D warlock. What's a warlock images? Are you talking about like Patreon, or is warlock patron a particular class for D&D? Oh, you're not alone, Vertex. Some of his books were just too much for me, like so darkly surreal that they got hard to follow. I don't think that's P-brain on your account. I think it's just that his vision is so unique and so like complete that it's kind of, sometimes it can be hard to wrap your mind around. It's like trying to figure out, it's trying to really get your head around the true idea behind cosmic horror. It's a tough thought. Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. I understand now, Tyler. Thank you. Yeah. I think I've done just by virtue of enjoying painting weird stuff. I've painted lots of dark gods, which I guess we could call them. So yeah, I think that would be a fun challenge. All right, we've noodled down there enough. Where are we on the face? Let's kind of just check in. I made her lips, so you can see what I was talking about in terms of the mouth structure with that underbite. That should come forward a little bit more and change the trajectory of the lips and the relationship of the lips and the flesh of the muzzle over the teeth, the bite, if you will. And I've done a more traditional mouth here. So let's go ahead and make a new layer and see if I can kind of get back to what I had. And if it helps, great. If not, you can always turn off the layer and throw it away. time is not lost there. Forge cleric better than all classes. God, if you guys are talking about new classes, I'm way out of the loop. It's been a long time since I played like the newer D&Ds. The last full campaign I played was like a 3.5. I think you guys are on 5 now. Alcohol's our friend. Underbite, underbite. One of the features that kind of begins to transform first when you have a strong underbite, or the shape of the jaw going into the bottom of the teeth doesn't have that kind of trademark S shape going out into the teeth like this. If it kind of is a little bit more flat or straight, the first thing you lose is this kind of dip that comes in on the bottom of the lip. So what we do is we're going to go in and paint that out and kind of bunch up the flesh at the top part and make that dip a little bit shallower and lower. Another thing that often happens is that little ridge that we were talking about, where the tiny bip of the bottom of the lip that picks up a highlight. We were talking about that last week or last session. That gets turned in a little bit, and you can see I did it up here. See how it turns in, and it all becomes part of that dip underneath. That's what we got to do. Danny McBride is one of the executive producers. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I want to get Roughhouse's attention. So if any of you guys are friends with Danny McBride or David Gordon Green, let him know. I'm keen. Hey, thanks for the follow, Crying Echo. Welcome. So we're thinning the bottom lip now. And because this kind of in England, Britain, they would call that kind of that shape. There's a facial expression. Am I right on this, Thug? It's called a belm. Or you stick your tongue into behind your bottom lip like this. It's like a rude gesture one would make. So we're kind of implying that by changing the shape of the teeth, the direction and angle of attack. We. We'll have to look up and tell the story of why it's called the Belm, because that's suddenly interesting to me. Sometimes when you're making big changes like this, it might help to just grab the whole thing. Electrical is in like electrician work. I kind of had to teach myself to be a novice electrician when I was living on the boat. And I became darkly familiar with the alarming jolt of 110. Well, I know what my screams sound like. I was in my engine room. I was wiring a new inverter. So an inverter is oh yeah, you zap yourself. It happens. I was wiring an inverter so that in the engine room, it's a very tight space to begin with, and one wall was completely covered with all of the backside of the electrical stuff. So I had the 12 volt panel on one side and the 110 on another side. and they're totally separated and insulated against each other and things like that. But I was leaning into the room and pulling wiring through from the inverter, which was external, that was going to take the battery power, which is 12 volts, transform it into 110 so that my computer, my laptop, my iPad could charge off of it during the day off of solar. And I was all excited because I was doing my own electrical work, and I had a gang of Mexican guys on board that were mechanics, and they were working on something else on the boat. And so I was in there leaning across this thing, all proud of myself because I was wiring on my own, and the belt of my shorts, it wasn't the belt, but that section of my shorts touched both the 110 and 12 panel at the same time. So I got zapped like 2 inches from bits. And apparently I just fell down on top of my engine and went ah! Like an awful scream. And the guys up at the top of the deck just started laughing because I did this like squelchy scream. It was the worst. So yeah, I short-circuited the 12 and the 110 and got zapped. My first 110 since I was a child, when I was a little adventurous with a paperclip, and it was right next to my bits, my tenders. I do not recommend. Very painful. Yeah, plumbing is so much easier to deal with. Oh yeah, 2040 zap. I'm really glad I didn't have to work with 2040 on my boat. For those of you not familiar with this stuff, we're talking about, I believe, the voltage, right? Or is it voltage? Yeah, coming through. So the punch power of those things. 12 volt is like the battery that you would have for your, like a golf cart. It's basically golf cart batteries. 110 is what comes out of our sockets in the States. 2040 is what comes out of the sockets almost everywhere else. It's why when you plug in your hairdryer that you brought with you into the plugs in Prague, the hotel lights all go out and there's a massive fire in your bathroom. Not a good feeling. Okay, I've thickened it up, brought forward the belm a little bit. Chicken tenders. Well, they're definitely battered after that. You don't remember much, but you end up on the other side of the room. Yeah. We should just be glad that Tesla won that battle, right? Isn't it Tesla that pushed for AC rather than DC? I'm admitting a little bit of ignorance on that. I've only cursorily read the history of electricity. I know enough to know the drama between Edison and Nikola Tesla, but I don't know all the details. Oh man. Ouch. There's nothing quite like electrical diagnostics for fun surprises. Right, but the difference, as I understand it, the difference between DC and AC is AC pulses its current, and DC holds it. So if you get a shock from DC that's powerful enough, it just grabs you and you can't do anything. Your muscles all contract and you die attached to the wire. And then AC, where it's alternating, will throw you across the room instead, because your muscles will all... Because the throw isn't actually from the electricity, it's your muscles reacting to it. Tyler, you're absolutely 100% correct, and I cannot actually argue with that. Thank you. For those of you not interested at all in electrician arguing, I apologize. We talk about everything here on Sketchin with Izzy. It definitely knocked back the model prettiness factor quite a bit, I think, which is good. Let's pull all of this into our group. Yeah. Yeah. And the downside, it does look like she's reacting to having her hand being eaten. Decisions need to be made. Well, Let It Ink, you're not wrong. I mean, I think that's true of everything. Like, there's always going to be people that know more. That's kind of the thing I love. Yeah, direct versus alternating. Thank you, Tyler, for your knowledge. I think, I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's where AC/DC gets their name, is the electrical terms, but I really don't know. My ignorance is absolute on that one. Yeah. Oh, this was the right choice. Yeah. I wanted the fullness, but not the breadth. Knock back that darkness just a little touch. Animal Crossing is AC. What is DC for games? Gotta think of that one. Oh, Ermagerd. Don't get started on talking about layers. You'll make ADSR Thug go crazy. You will deeply upset the fellow. Danimals Crossing. I need to pour more fizzy water. Here's some ASMR for you guys. Yeah, like a commercial. Fizzy water. Daniel, welcome, buddy. How you doing? My layers are war crying. Well, I never thought that my Photoshop skills would end, like get me landed in the Hague, but fair enough. You're not wrong. They are awful. Fizzy water is the happiest of juice. How's it going, man? How's it going? You inspired me with all those videos you've been doing of your drawings. Y'all should absolutely be following Daniel Landerman on Instagram. He's always posting awesome videos of drawing and painting. Whatever works. Exactly. That's my philosophy. War crime. I am deeply insulted, sir. I say. Pistols at dawn. Exactly. Irma Gerd is my lawyer. When I have the tribunal for my war crimes. I'm keeping the thickness of the entirety of the bridge going up. For now, we'll see. I might change my mind. And I need to imply, excuse me, a little bit of the cast shadow there from this mask. But I want to quickly illustrate the subsurface scattering. So I'm just using like a highly saturated value or color in the dark shadow value to do the shadow instead. 2 for 1. Twofer. Daniel, you're live streaming again? Awesome. Are you doing that primarily on Instagram or are you doing that on here? I got to give you a follow. Let it ink. I think you've had enough. I never think about Chris Redfield punching boulders. It's absolutely an academic term, which I did not learn from ADSR Thug, who is lying about my hot mess of folder. Don't you look at this whole layers thing. This layers palette is off limits. Don't look at that. He's lying. He's a bundle of lies. Okay, cool. All right, I'll follow you after this. Take care, Let It Ink. It was fun hanging. Have a good one. Join us again next time. Don't get shocked. Stay away from that 110, brother. All right, she had a really sharp jaw in the original. But I'm gonna kind of let that soften up, and I'm enjoying kind of the wrinkles and extra flesh I've implied in the arms and above the breast. So I'd like to kind of age her just slightly by letting the neck remain and the chin remain as it is. Variety. Why not? Oop, damn it. See, sometimes those shortcuts can work against you. I think I kind of had this as like a brassy kind of collar last time. I'm debating whether or not to keep the metallic aspect. I'm not 100% on that. Possibly. Let's test it. You know my rule. Let's go ahead and make a new layer. See if it works. If it works, it works. If it don't, kill the layer. Guess I am guilty of war crimes. I'm gonna map my speculars to kind of follow this new structure of it that I've developed, where it kind of follows the weird new clavicles. Ooh. New. Zoom out, take a look at my navigator, double check, triple check, switch brushes again. You can rest assured, Doug, that will not be happening. I will not be naming that layer. I'll put it in its own group for no reason whatsoever. And then I'll add a color that also makes no sense. I do agree. My Photoshop files must be infuriating for anybody that's got just a touch of the OCD. But this is true of all of my workspaces, so why shouldn't it be true of my digital workspaces? As a transhumanist. ABF. Always be flippin'. Your pain is my pleasure. What is your pleasure, sir? So I'm putting in the totally incorrect hue. The values are about right, but the hue is really off and kind of not matching what I've got there. So I will go in and kind of add a nice warm halo around that effect. But right now I'm just interested in testing the material itself and seeing if this is the right feel and the right material for what I'm after. My concern is, the thinking here, and my concern is that I'm going to be creating with the shiny material, you're going to have some pretty strong high contrast marks right next to each other. And as we've established in previous sessions, especially on this painting, high contrast is one of the ways that you can imply a focal point. And I may have to control the shininess here and knock it back some so that it still looks shiny, but so that it doesn't quite take away from my current focal points, which are the dog snack. I don't know if I like that dip in so much. I don't think I really even had that in the original. Let's make this actually concave, which means switching out where the light is hitting. See what I did there? Yeah, that's better. That's definitely fits this kind of like more angular Hellraiser Cinnabite thing I've got going on here. I may not need to imply the pit of the neck with the actual shapes in the gorget. I might be able to get away with something that's a little bit more abstracted and graphic in the design, which might actually also help out with the subtle, not too subtle, symbolism I'm putting in there. That works. So I'll show you guys a real quick, easy metal trick. Obviously, in my lessons, I get much deeper into how materials work, and the most important aspect of it, like why materials look the way they do in regard to the basic rules of lighting and how they behave over the form. But here's a quickie. When you're doing metallic structures like this and you want to have a quick metallic read, you can take any edges on a surface where you want to break a plane and go into a different direction and significantly pump up the contrast on those edges, and it will look more metallic as a result. It's such a cheat. I kind of call it the Blizzard cheat. And it has to do with how we used to texture different materials for games. You would have to do things. You would have to paint on the diffuse layer some aspect of lighting, because the lighting systems that we had for games weren't all that hot yet. They didn't have ray tracing like we're going to have with the PS5. So you would imply some of these things in the diffuse layer and kind of pop up little aspects to help suggest more strongly what that material is without depending on actual physical light source inside the game. So it's a cheat that I use also while painting. It's just kind of arbitrarily amping up the value jump when you're switching an edge like this. And you can do it the other way too. So let's take this dark. We can also kind of amp up that change by putting a dark into something that's a mid-tone or a light. See? Quick and easy metal. My ever so subtle symbolism here. You know what? I kind of want to punch this out as almost like a little throat detail instead of leaving it in. I'm going to make it a point instead of a divot at the pit of the throat. I'm working on damn it, I can't color pick the right color here. I'm working on an Intuos. I actually despise the Cintiqs. I've never liked them. I want to eliminate as much as possible the separation between me and, you know, the intent of whatever it is I'm thinking about and whatever gets put down. So the Cintiq, my hand is literally in the way. Also, they're hot, and I run real hot, so it's like, nah. Not for me. I understand the value, and I know why a lot of people dig them. Yeah, man, actually, you know, for all the garbage I give the Cintiq and for all of my reasons for disliking the Cintiq, I love the iPad with the iPad pencil. It's so good. And I can't even justify it. It's the heat isn't there. Yeah, it feels less digital. It's almost like painting or drawing. There's I don't know what it is about it versus a Cintiq, but it pulls off that effect for me and makes it pleasant. I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm cool with it. I'm just following it. This was not intended when I sat down today. Oh yeah, if you're using Procreate with the Apple Pencil, you got to have that paper-like. I use it, and it makes such a difference. Yeah, you're using it too. So good. Daniel, what size large file for your finishes are you doing? I'm curious because I've done a couple. I've done a couple for film level illustration on it, which I think were like 4K, and it handled them pretty well. You must be working on something damn huge. Yeah, I love it. ADSR Thug is a hard out Apple proponent. Me not so much, but where he is not wrong is in the qualities of the iPad Pro. It is fantastic. $12K, $18K? Are you serious? Oh my god! Yeah, I don't know. I've never had to work at anything that big for on my iPad. I think I'd probably be hesitant on a PC. Well, not this new one. This new one should be able to handle that just fine, but I'm a chicken shit with giant file sizes. I got to be careful. I'm rendering a lot up here, and again, I don't want the contrasts and the details that are up here to take away from my focal point, which is down here where the action is actually happening. My goal, my intent for a viewer coming into this for the first time is to be, I mean, the face is almost always your first primary focal point. So my hope for my read is that they would start on the face, go, oh my god, 4 boobs, that's fucking weird, and then kind of circle around to kind of this detailed area, but it doesn't have a shit ton of kooky contrast that will show the story that is kind of the second read. So it's my focal point, but also weirdly a second read because you just can't fight the face. So I want to make sure that these details that I add with this collar help lead the eye down the figure rather than stopping the eye right there. And right now I feel like it stops the eye. So I'm going to go in and mess with those values a little bit to sort that out. for ArcLight or IMAX, they want 18K. Good God. How big are those prints, like in inches? Or is that just standard movie poster size? They just love it super, super detailed. What? For key art? Oh my God. Yeah, I've been out of the game for a while, guys. Wow. 1500. Wow. Yeah, that's damn. Holy shit. That is a massive file. How many gigs was that in the end? $20 GB Photoshop file, gang. Jesus. It's the reason these guys are paid the big bucks. These are pros right here. That is insane. Fuck. I think on the longest axis, this illustration is 4,000. Like I very rarely go beyond that. Maybe 7. But a lot of the things that I work on for print are like, they get printed at like 2 inches. That's like the vast majority right there. Other than that, it almost always is just digital. Like the final viewing medium will be just straight digital. What a difference. That is cool. Oh, that's pretty good. I really like it. The iPad is a fun tool. I have used it definitely for finished pro work, but I haven't used it much lately. I really was leaning on it hard when I was on the boat and power was an issue, because I could charge the iPad much faster and it would work on that charge for a long time, whereas my laptop couldn't work without being attached to AC at all. Totally different game now that power really isn't an issue. I'm afraid to know how much draw I have on my current PC with the rig I've got set up. It must draw like crazy amounts. Yeah, AI upscaling's gotten a lot better, hasn't it? I remember reading some articles about it back on the boat, but I've never played with any of the apps that do that. This Photoshop has its own, right? Some of its own version of those things. These new up-resing, because they don't just take quad pics anymore, where it's just like taking 1 pixel, now it equals 4. So it like figures out the in-betweens, right? Really? Photoshop's preserved details is on top now. Damn. That's pretty great. I'm still just freelancing, Daniel. I do freelance, and then I do my Patreon, and then now I'm kind of doing this. And I'm hoping to get more into this kind of stuff because I'd like to do what you've been doing, which is more self-publishing and things like that. I know we briefly chatted about it at Lightbox, but that's kind of like, that's where I'd like to take this, is just to start making my own things and stop asking for permission on stuff. Dude, I I did a straight shot run from Puerto Vallarta to Portland, Oregon, actually. I bypassed LA completely. I didn't even go through California because when I drove through was I drove up in late March, and I drove 2,000 miles in like 2.5 days. Shit was crazy. I basically, what had happened was I had been monitoring what was going on with COVID for like the month prior. Like in January, I have a buddy, his buddies with me and Alien Vertex, and he's a little bit of a prepper, and he follows any like world-ending thing pretty closely. So he kept me updated on this thing quite a bit. So I was able to follow it closely, even back when it was just in China and other parts of like the Middle East and things. So I followed it, and then when it started showing up in Mexico, I started worrying, and I went into quarantine, on self-imposed quarantine, in like really early March, right after my birthday. Actually, was my first day of staying home and not going out. And I remember the president of Mexico, AMLO, publicly said in late March that he wasn't worried at all about the disease, that he had these magical amulets that he keeps in his pockets, and that was going to save him from COVID. And I was like, well, time for me to get the hell out of Dodge. So I literally packed up my car the next day with everything I had, which wasn't much. It was enough to fill an element to the brink, and the dog, and drove nonstop to Portland. So yeah, I missed LA completely. I haven't been back to LA since Lightbox. No plans to move back for now. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter. Almost everybody's doing remote work, so now is actually a primo time to be in a place where I can have cheaper rents and still, get work in industry. Yeah, I tried to call the consulate. Yeah, you remember that, Thug? That was crazy. Couldn't call the consulate, and I wanted to call the consulate because I wasn't sure that if the borders were actually open or closed, and nothing was getting through. And I ended up actually getting on the phone with CBP in Nogales, like right on the border with Mexico, right there in Arizona, and chatted with those guys for a while. And damn, they were like, well, if you're an American coming back, basically it's open border, so just come, but if the sooner you can come, the better. We can't guarantee how long that'll be the case. Excuse me. Of course, they kept the border open for a long time after that. I think in a lot of cases, if you're an American citizen in Mexico right now, you could still get back pretty easily, even though it's not recommended. But I managed to keep me and the dog in total quarantine, despite the fact that I drove 2,000 miles and across a border in several states. I still managed to keep us almost fully quarantined. So it was pretty good. And then when I got here, I went into quarantine again and didn't have much close contact with the people that I'm living with in this compound. And after that, it's been aces. How about you, brother? I imagine things have been pretty kooky. You work remotely most of the time anyway, right? Like traditionally with those guys? Oh, full time in house. Damn. So things must be really different. You've been working from home since your birthday in mid-March. Okay, yeah, wow. Oh, yeah. What I find interesting about this whole working from home thing is I'm reading like that there are all these studies now that are saying that most people are more productive. Like all of the bullshit that we've been told for years about working from home, especially as artists, has been not the case. Like when it actually put to the test, most people love working from home and it doesn't hurt production at all, which I think is so funny. Yeah, I mean, and it ties into like a lot of my other thinking on how things are going right now. Like, I really think that if everybody had, a basic income, for instance, the big argument against that would be, well, nobody's ever going to work again. I don't think that's true. I think people like to work. I think people like having things to do and there is a social aspect to work that's super important. So, I don't know. We're going to be seeing a lot of different things happening in the coming year. 20% of the company doesn't know how to handle it. Actually, I know a couple people even up here that are a little bit more in the social butterfly category that are freaking out a little bit. Like this is really hard for them. I mean, I feel like I've been specially training for this for the last 5-6 years. I've been on a boat, sometimes literally by myself for miles and miles where no one is around. And so isolation is kind of normal for me. Although being, part extrovert, I miss some of that stuff. I really miss regularly seeing friends and things like that, but I could totally live without it. It's not the end of the world. I made myself depressed. Yeah, those poor extroverts. They're chewing their own faces off right now. Yeah, I think I'm the same in Omnivert. I am energized both by hanging out in a group and by being on my own. I imagine most people generally are. I don't know. I don't know what the hell the deal is with people. They're all weird. Everybody's weird. Doing some accent values right here, but what I want to do is make sure that my accent values actually support the implied shapes I'm trying to create and the kind of bulging of flesh from pinch and gravity simultaneously. It's gonna be tough. Yes, I imagine I'll come and join you for a wander about Verdansk. Verdansk. Did you watch the videos today on that we're taking apart the new season trailer? Looks dope. Like right as I'm starting to get bored and irritated with the offerings on hand, they finally started to switch them up. Hey, thanks for hanging out, Daniel. It was awesome chatting. I'll have to stop in and say hi, and I'll give you a follow right after this is over. Enjoy. Break a leg, buddy. Good chatting. Oh, dude. Thug, check it out. Iceman Isaac did a pretty good one, which was concise. I don't like the ones that spend a whole great deal of time talking conspiracy theories and overly reading into the trailers. He just does kind of a quick breakdown, which was pretty good. They're gonna open up the stadium is open, which I'm very excited about. Yeah. Just watch the video. You'll dig it. In fact, yeah, I think I got another 15 minutes to go here. I did not actually get it all close to finishing. apologies all. We're gonna be working on this one for another session, I think. What do y'all think? Are you guys liking these later hours? The 5 o'clock ish time set for streams. I'm trying to plan out the schedule for for my continued career as a streamer on here, and I'd like to do. I'm thinking maybe 3 days a week, and I'm trying to figure out like good times. I know that this is basically a disaster for a lot of my UK followers and a lot of my UK students. So I'm real sorry, guys. What I will do, what I'm thinking about doing for sure, is keeping at least one of those streams at late night for UK, so that you can hang out until you get too tired and pass out in front of the computer. But I got to also do some that are a little bit more comfortable for me time wise. But I think I'm going to keep Wednesday the 12 noon Pacific Standard. But the rest I'm totally open. And I'm also interested on what days work best for you guys. Like, what would you like to see for that? And do you like this format? So I'm just trying to tailor a good show that people will like and can learn from and would like to hang out regularly with. You think streaming from 5 to 12 is good? That's a good run. That's a long time. Or do you mean like just any time within that span? I don't know if I can always do a 7. Let's go! I don't know if I can do 7 hours all the time, but honestly, that's generally kind of how I traditionally like to paint, is in bursts of about 7 to 9 hours. So one of those shows could be a long form show, but I don't know if that's even like of much value. I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing as I try and rise up the ranks, to affiliate and beyond, hopefully, and I can only do that with your guys' help. So please share your experiences here. But my goal is to try and figure out. I don't want to call it gaming the algorithm, but that's basically what it is, where I got to work with you guys and figure out what's the best time and what's the best amount of time, so that I'm not going to be oversaturating you with my annoying bullshit, but also that we can enjoy some time together painting some wacky stuff. That's all right, Tyler. Welcome. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, so don't worry about it. What I'd like to be doing, and I think that's what's going to be going on into the future. I'm still preparing kind of the notes on how I want to go about this, but what I'm thinking will be happening in the future is using Twitch as kind of my format for working on my new projects as I develop them. I'd really like to be working on them with people, touching base and getting temperature checks on things as I build them, which will be really valuable for me, because I've said this before in the stream. I think my biggest weakness is generally knowing what people like and making sure that I'm satisfying with my work things that are of interest for other people. I'm really good at entertainment myself, but it also doesn't really pay the bills, does it? You are a smart ass, aren't you, Tyler? Well, my dog has grown up on a strict diet of exposure, so that's fine with me. Smartasses are very welcome. Please do come back. I would enjoy that. We are kindred spirits, my friend. I am still, even at this point, even though I'm kind of coming in towards the finish line, coming in towards home base, etc., other sports metaphors that I have no relationship with, I'm still working around the image and trying to bring it back to where my focal point will be, that last bit where I'm really going to pump the last heavy duty 20% or whatever, that's where I'm going to put all the juice, is in that last bit. And so I'm just still kind of refining around the edges and bringing it all closer and closer and closer and closer to that focal point. Don't forget that concept I was talking about in terms of the effort topographic map that shows the depth of how much time you're spending. You want the focal point to be the tallest. You want the focal point to be your Mount Everest on this map. You're good people too, Tyler. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad you enjoy those disgusting wrinkles. They're there for you. I know I'm not supposed to be touching my eyes right now, but I got like a mad little spasm going on right there. I used a not touchy finger I don't touch anything with, except I'm touching my glass now, so I basically have COVID. The right breast and left one now has become very bubbly. Even when from the get-go I was trying so hard to avoid this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften that edge first and see if that saves me. If not, I may have to kind of fix that. It's crazy. That's like the one thing that this pandemic's really taught all of us, I think, is just how much we are constantly, molesting our own faces. Shit's crazy cakes. Damn you, fizzy water, making me burp all the time. Right into the mic, which is kind of hilarious to me. I'm sorry, not sorry. No, we were talking about literal alternating current, direct current from as inked, leaded ink is an electrician, and I had to teach myself some basic electronic work living on the boat. I had to kind of become a novice mechanic, novice electrician, novice woodworker, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, so we were just geeking out a little bit about pushing wire and what it feels like to be shocked. I do love music, but I don't know very much about AC/DC, to be honest. I am what you would call a digital nerd. I grew up on digital music and have loved it. I was never really a rocker. I can enjoy it nowadays, but you'll know what I mean when I say, like, I super got into Rush like 3 years ago. I had never even heard of Rush prior to that. So, yeah, exactly. LOL indeed. Yeah, I'm not a rocker, but I mean, I'm super into EDM and other forms of digital music, and I mean, it's just what I grew up on. That's a funny story in and of itself. Yes, I am a sweet summer child when it comes to rock, but I know a shit ton about electronic music. What I do like is that nowadays, I mean, stuff that I loved when I was a teen, everybody made fun of me. Like, it's just bleeps and bloops, man. That's not even music. They're not even playing an instrument. They just go on stage and press a button on a computer, man. Blah, blah, blah. Now everything is digital. Ha, ha, ha. Who gets the last laugh? Wah. Turns out pop, rap, hip-hop, country, every goddamn genre is actually digital. Ha! I win. Yeah, I'm hipstering out pretty hard. I need that. I need to feel justified because, you know, getting beat up over your music is rough. So I'm changing the contour of the bandages or the banding here in order, again, to create weight. And I'm hoping that that helps, because these bottom ones don't, they almost feel like abs. They're not feeling quite like another set of breasts. So I need to find a way to remedy this. Like it works up here, I think, better. I definitely kind of implied weight and some push, a little bit of gravity on the forward end. And it's not working because she's seated. A lot of that is like bunched up. So it just looks like abness. Exactly. We need victories for past transgressions. I need my victories for my love of digital music. Why were Mary Poppins chimney sweeps making fun of me? Because I just got into Rush recently. Like it was like literally a recent discovery where I was like, this is awesome. This is some really good drumming. Wow. I know how silly it is. I don't even want to get into when I discovered Queen. You guys, my followers were just gone. I'm very, very slow at that stuff. When I like something, I like it. I'm pretty unapologetic about it. Let's see. It's almost time for me to join my guys in Verdansk. Let's see if that helped at all. Nope. I fucking hate it. I really, really hate that. I have shit the bed, as they say. Is this an OC? If so, what inspired this character design? It is an original character. I can show you the original painting. That's this guy up here. So this was a painting that I did for a photo bashing lesson that I did for my patrons on Patreon. And all of my lessons I back up in an archive on Gumroad. So this was explaining photo bashing, how to use photos more illustratively and have them not take away too much from the painting. Because the biggest sin that I see is the paintings, the painting and the strokes of the painting get lost because of the detail and the artifacting of the photos. So I showed a bunch of different techniques on how to push that back and bring the painting back forward. So it was just this rando creature character that I developed during the process of those couple of videos. So yeah, it's an original thing. I'd say it was probably somewhat, it's definitely got some Clive Barker inspiration in it, but it also draws from a character design that I did for God of War that ended up being, like, it was art directed so much that it ended up being very different than this. But that was one of the things that I think I had glanced at when I was looking at kind of my idea reference folder. Because that character that I designed did have the 4 arms and 4 breasts, but didn't, it was not this kind of arrangement at all. It was very different. So it was just that I kept. We need to have conversation about other music. Yeah, probably. I always welcome learning about other music. It doesn't hurt. But I will always love my digital music. You can't make me hate it. It's never going to happen. I love my bleeps and bloops. All right, guys? Leave me alone. Call of Duty, yeah. Yeah, I'll be playing Call of Duty later. Yeah, I've heard actually from people before that my work can sometimes look like Bloodborne, Dark Souls. I've watched a little bit of playthroughs and things like that on YouTube. The art direction looks amazing. It does not look like a game I'd want to play at all. It looks way too hard. that helped a little bit. It's a good jumping off point for what, Thug? Mini Ripperton. Or is it Riperton? Yeah. Usually when I find games that I really like visually, or there's something about them that I dig, but I know I'm never going to play them really, I watch YouTube videos on them and I study the lore. For example, this is a good story. My girlfriend at the time, way back, got me trying to play horror games, and she was really into Silent Hill. And I started playing it, and I was like, this is amazing. It's so intense. It's like, the world building is fantastic, but it scared the utter shit out of me. So I would just have my character running through the whole thing, and the whole time I was screaming like, ah, playing the game and just running. So all these like horrible things would go whizzing past me that I meant to like walk through and be all like spooked by. So I just tried to run through the whole damn game. I loved the lore. I was like, this is so awesome, but it's too scary. I'm way too scared. And I never got to enjoy it. I played that and I played The Room, both the same way. I just ran everywhere and shot at everything and tried to ignore all the horrible shit, which is really the point. It's like you want that thrill. That's why you're playing a horror game. So I missed out. But I ended up liking the lore of it so much that I went onto the Wikipedia. And I remember I read the Wikipedia for Silent Hill, like all of them. And the Wikipedia scared me. So I'm not made for horror games like that. Yeah, it's too much. Thug, can you link Gareth's page? Gareth is a Scottish comedian who plays horror games. He's like me. He's terrified of horror games, but he actually plays them for your entertainment. You guys should check it out. I've watched a few of his streams. They're really funny. And they actually get too scary for me, too. So I have to turn them off. But yeah, he plays horror games, and he's got all these awesome ways that you can support him and scare the shit out of him at the same time with the games he's playing. It's pretty funny, interactive setup he's got. I just remember it's Gareth is in the name, Thug? I could not do what he does. That's too scary for me. What's funny is I can watch scary movies, no problem. Jump scares never get me. But it's because you see them coming. When you're actually playing, man, I'm such a victim of that stuff. Oh no! You can't post the link. Can you just post his handle? And then you guys know you just do Twitch TV / and then his handle, please. Sorry, Thug. I forgot. That's one of those things that's stupid. Yeah, can you just post his handle? So it would be twitch.tv / and then the handle. And just post the handle for them. It's a great channel. He's really funny. Oh, I get the love of the thrill. I hear you, Gareth Wag. My Scottish is terrible. Wah. It's probably wah. I don't know. But he's funny as hell, guys. You should definitely give him a follow. Do the subs or whatever that is. Get in there, scare the crap out of him. He's got a pretty clever little setup right now where if you bid a certain amount, he turns off the lights and turns on an IR camera. I believe that was Thug's idea, and it's genius. I don't know how he I really don't know how he does it. I would never sleep again. Yeah, he was playing Visage. I was watching him play, and I had to bail because it was too goddamn scary. War, war, war. That sounds almost Mandarin. War, Gareth War. Cool. Well, thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. Y'all check him out. He's a funny guy. Oh, that game's impressive because it manages to do, and I think that a lot of the horror games that do this well manage to do the building tension and then keeping you on that tension rope that's just like a taut string, and they just keep you there so long until the point of almost fatigue, and then bam, they hit you. Oh my god. I don't have enough underwear for that shit. It was better the first time I tried. Wow. Wow. Gareth, that's enough for me. That's close, right? You know that my name is Izzy because people can't pronounce my name. I'm not going to feel guilty. You're not going to get me to feel guilty, man. Draw. Yeah, but the way you say draw with an English accent is different than I would say draw. One thing I got to give credit to really good horror games is they tend to, for the premise of it, they tend to be very inventive in how they build a mechanic or whatever that mechanic may be, that allows you to interact, but also kind of is your safe space, and how they can play that against you. It's always impressive to see. Really good game design is incredible. We all know I'm hopeless. All right, gang. I'm going to have to throw in the towel for now. We're not going to finish tonight, but I'll be back on. You guys should definitely let me know what you think. If not, in notes here in the next get together, what you think are good ideas for time in order to work out my schedule. I won't announce like an official schedule until I can really sort out probably the best times for everybody to join and get the maximum amount of entertainment out of everything, because it's always more fun when you guys talk and hang out and chat. So thank you all for being involved and hanging, and hopefully you learned some stuff and had fun watching me paint this weird booby monster. I hope it'll be done soon. I seem to be doing it way more rendering than I originally ever intended, so this has to end soon. Because I want to get started on the next project that's going to totally include you guys, so I'm super excited about that. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. As always, paint smart, paint sexy. Hi there. I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, you want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children, we all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have to buckle in and maybe take some pain meds, because I'm going to rip out your normal person's eyes and replace them with a painter's eyes. I'm going to restructure how you see and how you understand what you're seeing. I'm going to turn you into a painting machine. Truly, anyone can learn to paint realistically if they can both determine what they're seeing or imagining with basic and straightforward rules. Once you understand the mechanics of light, color, and form in reality, you will have the capacity to paint anything you can see or imagine realistically. After that, the real fun begins. Here are some of the ways you can join me and master the logic of light and color. The very first lesson of my series is totally free on my YouTube channel. In that lesson, I give you the 3 primary rules of light that are the very foundation of painting and understanding light itself. If you do nothing else to make your painting mastery easier, at least watch this amazing little lesson. It will do more for your basic understanding of light than just about any tutorial you can find. When you're ready to get deeper and you feel like you have those first rules figured out, allow me to utterly blow your mind with the next episodes available on Gumroad and ArtStation. As we go deeper into the rules underlying the logic of light and color, I carefully and simply explain important and interesting elements. From beginner to pro, there is an amazing amount of information available. Each concept has been distilled into the clearest explanation you're likely to find anywhere. Like episode 2, where we cover the atmospheric effect and how that relates to light, scale, and distance of objects in reality, and how to render it. Or episode 3, where I hand over the ultimate key to controlling value in your paintings. Episodes 5 through 8 are all about rendering materials. Want to understand the logic behind rendering metal, leather, hair, transparency, damn near anything. I even cover the logic behind painting special effects like fire, neon, or lightsabers in later episodes. The lessons just get deeper and more detailed as I build on the foundations covered in preceding episodes. The 10th gives you the most important rule of composition you'll ever learn to keep your images interesting. The next few episodes cover important painting techniques like my edge control ninjutsu or simplification with the large to small system. We dip a toe in color theory, devote a few episodes to finishing full-blown illustrations utilizing the techniques we've learned so far. Some episodes, like the lighting game or Advanced Exercises 1, the shirt, present cheap, valuable, and practical exercises to give you explosive growth in your development. Episodes 22 through 25 cover painting and illustration, just like I do for Magic the Gathering, from assignment and inception to signing the painting at the end. Each one is full of tips, knowledge, everything to make working as an illustrator easier. Did you enjoy learning how to paint basic materials? Metal, wood, and such? I got 3 whole episodes devoted to the intricate logic behind painting different kinds of skin. After that, more lessons devoted to pumping life into your portraits and original methods for accurately drawing faces out of your head. From fundamentals to photo bashing, Gumroad and ArtStation have every lesson I create available for purchase a la carte. But here's an even better way to learn with me. Stay current with my latest lessons on Patreon for the lowest price available. Monthly support gets my student that month's lesson, a critique or paint over of their finished work, a discount code for 25% off the entire Gumroad archive, and access to the Logic of Light and Color Discord community, where we plan future lessons, share knowledge, and learn together as a team. The absolute best method is to join my Patreon classroom at the Student Plus tier, where you'll get everything I just mentioned and a free episode from the archive every month to accelerate your mastery at your own pace. You've decided to take control of your painting and master Izzy's Logic of Light and Color. Now it's up to you to choose the path that's best for you. I'll see you on the flip side. Paint smart, paint sexy.